It's so good to be back. It's so good to be home. Every time I come, everybody here always welcomes me with open arms. So I just want to say thank you because I don't get to come here a lot, but when I do, I so appreciate being here with everybody because this is a family. It really is. So tonight, I feel like with the family, I just want to, let's just get real. Let's just get down to bare bones, honesty, and get real. One of the things that's been really in my mind lately is that we are completely responsible for the energy that we bring. You have a space around you, and you have to take responsibility for that. And when you take responsibility for that, you have to admit to yourself that I am responsible for my success, but in the same turn, I am responsible for all of my. And that's a hard thing to come to. I mean, I'm an Italian from New York. I know they say Georgia because that's where I live, but I'm an Italian from New York. And I'm a very strong-headed woman raised by a strong, strong Italian family that was like, there is nothing that you can't do. Anything you want to do in life, you can do. All you have to do is be willing to do what it takes. You can have anything, you can be anything, you can do anything, as long as you're willing to do what it takes. So I've always had this great sense of personal responsibility when it comes to success. But when it comes to shortcomings or failures, as some might call it, or obstacles, or problems, whether in my practice or my relationships, that's hard to take that personal responsibility. And most of us, whether we want to admit it or not, we have a tendency to put that on somebody else. It's their fault. I did my best. I tried. I can't make them do it. I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make them drink. But something very empowering happens when you take responsibility for the problems. You find out that you are the solution. And if you start to look around you at the things that you would normally view as a problem in your life, if you are the solution, then you're no longer waiting for someone to come and save you. You're no longer waiting for someone to come and rescue you. You're not waiting for the white horse and the knight to come riding in to save you. You realize that it's completely up to me to come up with the solution. And while it may be a little bit uncomfortable to admit that I am responsible for the problems, just the very fact that it puts you in an empowered position of being able to come up with the solutions, that right there is enough to say I can accept the uncomfortableness and I can step out of my comfort zone to find ways that I could be better, to find ways that I could be more, to find ways that I can impact my community or the people around the world or have an impact on my profession. Because I have to tell you, for years now, the conversations have been going around this profession about how many we see and how little we see and what percentage we see and the impact that we have on the world and the impact that we're having on the profession and the people that are in the profession that are trying to change our profession from within. And I've come to the conclusion that we're basically at a crossroads. We have one faction that believes in the principle and stands strongly on the principles of chiropractic. And that faction is very strong, but maybe has been a silent majority for a little bit too long. Because while we get into these rooms and we have these conversations and we talk about promoting the principle and protecting the principle and making sure that our patients understand what it is that we do, there's a very loud minority that is out there trying to change chiropractic. And I call these people the Trojan horses because they are inside of our profession and they're constantly trying to change our profession by luring people who are struggling with the carrots of inclusion and higher repayments and more money and more patients coming to you. And if you would only just get prescription rights, then you would be able to see more patients. Then you would be treated as a real doctor. And so they're dangling these carrots in front of people who are struggling. And I feel that the reason they're struggling is because they don't own the principle. The reason they're struggling is because perhaps they didn't go to a school where philosophy was the foundation. Perhaps they weren't mentored by docs who had a strong philosophical basis and a strong practice. Perhaps they were around docs that thought that bikini waxing and laser hair removal were a great way to make extra money, and so they felt that that was a great way to make extra money as well. See, those docs that are struggling and lost in practice, you know what I've come to the realization? It's my fault too. I'm part of the problem, and I've got to take responsibility. And if I take responsibility, then I can come up with a solution, which is to be that we need to reach out to them. Instead of shunning them and saying, well, they'll never get it because they went to a different school and they don't get the philosophy, they don't get the principle, they're just lost their metapractors, what if we loved them up? What if we brought them into our fold? What if we brought them to events like this where it might be eye-opening to them, not just to the patients, as David had just said, but what if it was actually eye-opening to the chiropractors who had never really known that you could build a successful practice based on the principles of chiropractic? Imagine how that would shift their consciousness and their impact on the community around them. I mean, that would really make a difference. Can we all say yes? Yes. I mean, if you take that percentage of chiropractors who really want to be metapractors, but they don't really want to be it, they really just want to be successful and make money. If you showed them a way that they could be successful and make money and be fulfilled helping the people in their community by doing what it is that we all enjoy doing every day, which is true chiropractic, and they became successful, do you see how we shift them over to our side and we start to change the conversation? If you think about the people who are trying to shift what chiropractic is, they're unsuccessful. Half of them aren't even practicing. Some of them have lost their licenses, so they've got time and energy on their hands to keep putting out this message. And those of us that are busy in our practices and busy on boards and busy on associations, sometimes we think that we're doing enough, and we probably are, but maybe there's that one little shift more. Remember Cathy said earlier, what if you take that one extra step? What would happen if you took that one extra step? What if that one extra step was to find someone who is struggling in practice and love them up and get them to understand that they can be successful practicing in a principled method? What if you brought that one struggling chiropractor from your town or your county or even in your state or someone that you went to school with that you know is struggling someplace else, and you brought them here next time to New Beginnings? And they heard the message, and they started to understand that it is possible to be successful practicing the right way. And they went home and shifted their practice, and they went home and impacted their community. Now we have more patients under care understanding true chiropractic. So I think we are at a crossroads, because the crossroads right now is the silent minority, the very vocal minority, trying to pull people in a different direction. And now you have us, the people who get the principle, starting to rise up, starting to talk, starting to communicate and connect, starting to see messages going out through Amplified, like what Jason's doing, and starting to see more and more docs putting out good, solid, principled messages so that they can get not only their patients, but their community to understand what it is that we do. We have an enormous task in front of us, but I feel like we've been given such a gift. And the gift that we've been given is the understanding that this is the way that it's supposed to be, that life flows from above, down, inside, out, that the body needs no help, just no interference. We have that understanding. We've been given that gift. Those of you that get to use your hands, and some of you get to use your mouth, we get to spread that gift every day long. And if we spread it properly, if we're constantly educating patients, if we're constantly educating our community, if we're getting outside of our four walls and educating people that we may never actually get our hands on, but if they understand it because we educated them, then we're making a shift. And we're shifting it into our favor. And the more people understand what it is that we do, the more people will seek out care. I've told this story before, and some of you might have heard it, but when I was pregnant, the number one question I kept getting from people is, when are you going to stop teaching aerobics? When are you going to stop adjusting? When are you going to stop working? When are you going to just relax? And my standard answer was, I'm not sick, I'm pregnant. But the more I kept saying, I'm not sick, I'm pregnant, the more I was getting blank stares back at me. Like, people had never heard such a thing. Like, what do you mean? You're supposed to be on bed rest, aren't you? I mean, you're supposed to be taking it easy. No way. I had 2 hearts. For the one time in my life, I had 2 hearts. I had 2 brains, and I had 2 mouths. As a woman, that's a pretty cool thing, right? So I view pregnancy as the strongest point in a woman's life. So I was adjusting right up until I was in labor, adjusting, and went home and had my daughter. Okay? So there's nothing wrong with that. I was back 3 days later to adjust. I'd have been back sooner, but Monday was Memorial Day, so we were closed. Right? There was no reason not to be in the office. But the more I said it to people, and the more I realized people didn't understand that mindset, that mentality, the more I realized I had to do something about it. And that's how we started educating people. We started recording videos, and we started putting them out on YouTube, and we started educating people. And to date, we've educated over 7 million women how to have a healthy pregnancy. And in the process of these 7 million women understanding how to have a healthy pregnancy, all of our conversations shift back to chiropractic. It's almost like a big funnel, and we just catch them wherever they are. You want to learn about exercise? Come on, I got you. You want to learn about nutrition? Come on, I got you. You want to learn about breastfeeding or colic or what to do if the baby won't nurse? Come on, I got you. And in that process, as we bring them into the funnel, everything that we bring them to is the understanding that the body needs no help, just no interference. That your body and your baby's body will function better if the nervous system can function freely without interference. If every cell, tissue, organ, and system can communicate with the brain without any restriction, without any interference. And so as we educate them about what it is that we do, these women are now seeking out chiropractors around the world. So I feel like I'm making a little drop in the bucket, right? Just my little drop in the bucket. And I know that each one of you are doing the same thing. So I'm going to ask you today to take a little bit more responsibility, to learn how to see without your eyes, to learn how to use vision, and see something so much greater than you might have ever even imagined yourself doing. If you could reach more people without putting yourself at risk, would you do it? Yes or no? Yes? Just one person, right? If you could impact more people without getting out of your comfort zone, would you do it? Yes. If you could save a life without risking your own, would you do it? I think that chiropractic saves lives. I think that's what we do every day. And I think that what we do by saving lives every day, we sometimes go numb to it. How many miracles do you not even realize happen in your office, right? Because we all talk about the big miracles, right? The patient that's no longer incontinent, the woman that was infertile and had 7 miscarriages and now has a healthy baby, the scoliosis patient who was told she'd never get pregnant and just had her 3rd child, right? The small child with cochlear implants that left them in the car and went into choir practice and was singing the whole time after chiropractic adjustments, right? We all look for those miracles, but how many miracles come into your office every single day and you don't even acknowledge them? How many times does a parent bring a child in who gets adjusted that was just maybe tugging on the ear, maybe fussy, and you didn't even realize there was an ear infection going on, but because the child was adjusted, the ear infection cleared up. The child was never put on antibiotics. That didn't lead to allergies and asthma and eczema. The child wasn't fidgety. They weren't labeled as ADD. They weren't given Ritalin. They didn't have a lifetime increased risk of being addicted to other substances. Right? Those are the miracles that I think we go numb to. We take them for granted because they happen so easily in our office, we don't even acknowledge them. If you start acknowledging them and you start taking responsibility for that space around you, if you're responsible for those problems in your life, you're also responsible for those miracles in your life. And I think when we take responsibility for what's going on in our life, good and bad, and we feel more empowered, I'm willing to do more. Is anybody else willing to do more when they feel more empowered? Because I know that I am, right? So one of the things that we're doing now is we're teaching women, doctors, chiropractors, and staff how to have congruent conversation so that everybody is speaking chiropractic in the office, so that it's not one statement from the doctor and a different statement from the CA. And that's taking responsibility. That's making sure that the message I want to deliver is always the message that I want my patients to receive. So if I ask you tonight to take a little bit of responsibility for your choices and your actions and the space around you, good and bad, and I ask you to be a visionary and see with your eyes closed what this world could be if you were willing to step out of your comfort zone and change a life, save a life, without even risking yours, by being willing to step out on a limb and educate people about exactly what it is that we do, how we do it, and how their lives could benefit from it. I love and appreciate you.